didn't have our military...
Did he push him in the shoulder there?
If you didn't have our military...
Imagine your 12-year-old son, it's basketball season, comes up to you, says, Dad, can I get a new pair of the Jordans? All the cool kids have them. I really want them. And you say, Johnny, I just don't have the money this month. I can afford those $100 Converse, but I don't have $200 for the Jordans. Hurts your heart. Johnny says, I understand, but why? Why don't we have the money? You say, well, my buddy Jeff, he just got divorced. He's really hard up. It's an emergency. He really needs the money. Son Sonny says, I understand. You say, well, he's actually coming over for dinner tomorrow, so you'll be able to see, man. He's having a tough time. He's just really hard up. 6 o'clock, doorbell rings. Jeff walks in, sits down at the dinner table. Your wife's cooking is awful. This is worse than McDonald's. What's wrong with you? Where'd she learn how to... Johnny, those shoes are cheap poor boy shoes. Those Converse? Who wears those? Why didn't you get those new Jordans that just came out? That's exactly what Zelensky did when he stormed into the Oval Office like an entitled little boy, trying to make fun of and put down Trump and Vance in front of the whole American public who is sacrificing so we can give them money to help them in a time of emergency. So most people in their analysis are missing all of the important things. So I'm gonna go through it, but in case you haven't seen it yet, here's a little 15-second overview of what happened.
Complete, utter disaster.
The president has kicked Zelensky out of the White House.
I don't know if we can ever do business with Zelensky again.
I'm talking about the kind of diplomacy that's going to end the destruction of your country.
Yes, but if you
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media. Right now, you guys are going around.
Okay, here's where it starts. This is where it starts to get a little spicy. So JD Vance completely calls out that it's disrespectful. Look at this look on his face. This is the first time that he cracks and shows that he doesn't have control over his emotions. Now, this is my read on this. Is there a small chance that this is somehow planned, that he went in there with the intention to erupt and do this? I don't know. I think it's completely unlikely, but I'm not a political strategist. To me, it looks like he finally just let his emotions get on top of him, couldn't control it anymore, because he begins to spiral out of control, saying things less and less like he normally would that are fueled in only emotion and not logic.
Around and forcing conscripts to the front lines because you have manpower.
One of the things I want to point out, Trump has so much faith in Vance. He lets him talk. He's not even sitting there. A lot of times when people are talking, you can see he's ready to jump in. He has so much confidence. He never interrupts him. He lets him roll with it. That's very telling, especially because they've only been working together for a short amount of time. Pretty good sign.
Our problems. You should be thanking the president for trying to bring an end to this conflict.
Have you ever been to Ukraine that you say what problems we have?
So he's moving the conversation completely away from what Vance is talking about. He's just trying to call out a weakness that Vance has never been to Ukraine. So it's kind of like, you ever even played basketball? Except for this isn't relevant for his understanding of the situation. So this is just a tactic to derail the line of thinking and questioning and talking that Vance was on.
And I know what happens is you bring them on a propaganda tour, Mr. President. Do you disagree that you've had problems?
Do you notice how he sits as close as he can to the side of the chair and to the front of the chair? Because what that does in cameras is even a foot difference makes you look a lot bigger. Like he looks a lot bigger than he is. If they were both sitting back, you could see Trump's butt is back in the chair. If they were both sitting there, he would seem even smaller. I think that's a tactic on him and his media team's part.
Everybody has problems, even you, but you have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future.
Okay, so this has nothing to do. He's talking about the United States has oceans separating us from our potential adversaries. This has nothing to do with what they're talking about. So again, he's just trying to throw, have you ever even been to Ukraine? You have oceans and we don't. It has nothing to do with what they're discussing, but he's reeling. So he's looking for anything that can throw them on the back foot.
God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless. God bless. You will not have a war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
Trump just had to step in there. And that's absolutely right, because what he was trying to do is he said, you guys are going to feel it. You guys are going to be in a bad situation. Like he's the know-it-all. He knows something that they don't. Like he's the wise one telling us what's going to happen. Trump realized very quickly what was going on. Says, don't tell us what's going to go on with our country.
Trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that.
That's
Remember
exactly
this.
Exactly.
You're
exactly
in no
right.
position.
That is the exact way, I'm not going to say the perfect way because everyone's got their own thing. That is the exact way that I would have handled that. I think Trump, that's textbook.
To dictate what we're going to feel.
You keep repeating it until you make them accept what you said, because he keeps trying to talk over it. Well, this and this and this. You just keep saying it until they're quiet and they listen, and you've made your point.
We're going to feel very good.
You will feel influenced.
We're going to feel very good and very strong.
You will feel influenced.
You're right now not in a very good position. You've allowed yourself to be in a very bad position, and he happens to be right about it.
It's bizarre how he continues to try to talk over him, because this is when the breach of protocol is clearly just completely thrown out of the window. I've never seen this before. I'm not 80 years old, so I haven't seen these going back, but I've never seen this kind of dynamic before.
Beginning of the war.
You're not
Mr.
in a good
Brown,
position. You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having
not playing
cards.
cards.
Right now,
Okay, I'm not playing cards. So this is clearly simply a tactic to say, I'm not supplicating to you. I'm not going to go along the lines with what you're saying. I'm trying to be disagreeable. I'm trying to verbally outwit you. And this is not the bar where you're both going for the same woman. This is where he's getting money from the United States. You need to be polite and appreciative. And not only is he not doing that, but he's intentionally being combative. It's just, there's either something going on with his plan to go in here, or he truly just completely lost all emotional intelligence. Because, I mean, his country's been at war, so that's why I think it's more likely he just completely lost his cool, and now he's speaking completely from anger and emotion without any logic or political thinking behind it.
now you don't. Now you're playing cards.
Mr. President.
You're playing cards.
And so what does Trump do? Straight back to the card analogy. He's not letting him say that and then like, oh, you know, I'm not playing cards. Because one thing Trump could have done is completely backed off that analogy, and nobody even probably would have noticed. But Trump knows, I'm not going to let this guy say I'm not playing cards. I'm going to back off that. I'm going to put it in his face twice as hard. And the funny thing is, the follow-up, like after this went down, a few hours later, Trump's talking to the news. What do you notice? He continually hammers the cards analogy just to show that he's the one making the decisions. He's not influenced by him trying to one-up him. It's completely strategic.
Gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III. You're gambling with World War III. And what you're doing is very disrespectful.
He's like a little kid that's like, you're gonna go without dinner. What do you mean? What's for dinner? Peas anyway? What are we gonna have for dinner? I don't like mom's cooking anyway. It's not good. I don't want your peas anyway. It's like mumbling. Like, listen to this. I'm going to go back here. Listen to this.
Gambling is very disrespectful to the gambling with World War III.
I hate peas.
And what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country. That's back to you. Far more than a lot of people said they should have.
Have you said thank you once this entire meeting? No, in this entire meeting.
This is another thing. Vance multiple times, as if you said thank you once. He never once says thank you. A very easy way to realize he'd gotten way out in front of his skis and was saying things he shouldn't have. Take a breath, take a step back, and be like, you know what? That actually is right. There's nothing wrong with, like, if I was advising Zelensky in this situation, there's nothing wrong once you've made so many errors. Take a step back. Just eat some crow and say, like, if I just like came to it, like in that, what's that show? That Severed show. I came to and I was like, I had no idea what I was doing. I was sitting in the chair and I made these mistakes. That's what I take a step back. I'm going too far. You know what? You're actually right. I'm glad you brought that up. Tensions are very high. You can understand I'm under a ton of emotional distress. The first thing I should have said is thank you. Because without your help and contribution, this, and this, he could have completely put this back on the rails. But how does he handle it?
Said thank you. You went to Pennsylvania and campaigned for the opposition in October. Offer some words of appreciation for the United States of America
murmuring.
And the president who's trying to save your country.
Please, you think that if you will speak...
A great example of someone just waiting for their turn to talk. It doesn't matter what Vance just said. He was waiting for him to stop talking so he could say his piece. Awful conversation tactic. That's what everyone, just to bring this to more of a social thing, when you're talking to somebody, like you're at a networking event or even at business or at the water cooler, you can tell when people are not listening to what you say. They're just waiting to say what they're going to say. It's the least engaging thing you can possibly do. You want to be so engaged that you lose your train of thought. But wow, that's awesome. Tell me more about that. Not just waiting for him to say, if you talk loud.
If you will speak very loudly about the war,
He's not speaking loudly. He's not speaking loudly. Your country is in big trouble.
Can I
Wait a
answer?
minute. No.
Can
You've
I
done a lot
answer?
of talking. Your country is in big trouble.
I know.
You're not winning.
I know.
You're not winning this.
I.
You have a damn good chance of
We are
coming out
staying,
okay because of
Mr.
us.
President, we are staying in our country, staying strong from the very beginning of the war. We've been alone, and we are thankful. I said thanks.
And that also is a big slap in the face to America. We've been alone this whole time, considering, I don't remember the numbers, like 350 billion or something. Like, to say that and I think like Musk has been giving them Starlink and all this stuff, like to say that they've been alone is just another, it shows to me that just reading between the lines here as a social coach, it shows to me that this is not strategic. And even if it is strategic for him to show this strange disrespect, he really thinks that, because you wouldn't say we've been alone if you felt like you had support from other allies like the United States with how much we've given them. It's bizarre.
You haven't been
In this
allowed.
cabinet,
You
and
haven't
not
been
only
allowed.
in this cabinet.
We gave you through
I
this
said thank
stupid
you.
president 350.
Now Trump's getting worked up. But when Trump gets worked up, it's always strategic. He's allowing himself to display more emotion to make a point. It's not like Zelensky, where he's actually getting worked up and talking and saying things he shouldn't. He's letting the emotion control him. Trump is controlling the emotion and leveraging it to assist and amplify his communication.
$1 billion.
You voted
we gave
for
you
your
military equipment,
You
and you
voted
men
for
are
your
brave,
president.
but they had to use our military.
What about
if you didn't have
You
our
invited
military
me.
equipment,
You
Does he
invited
push
me.
him in the shoulder there?
Military equipment, and you men are brave, but they had to use our military.
What about
if you didn't have
You
our
invited-
military?
I didn't realize that. He actually exerts some force and pushes him. That's quite a move. I didn't realize that the first time through. Check this out.
And you men are brave, but they had to use our military.
What about
if you didn't have
You
our
invited-
military equipment?
You invited
If
me
you
to-
didn't have
Has
our
there
military
has there
equipment, this
ever
war
in the Oval Office been a conversation between presidents or leaders where the other person pushed him and it wasn't some sort of a chummy thing? I would be highly surprised.
would have been over in 2 weeks.
In 3
okay?
days, I heard it from Putin. In 3 days, this is something
Maybe
new.
less.
In 2 weeks, of course, yes.
It's going to be a very hard thing to do business like this. I tell you.
So now Zelensky is saying that Trump said he'd end the war in 2 weeks, saying, well, it didn't end, kind of trying to say, hey, who do you think you are? Just once again, just trying to one up them. It's like some social engagement after a football game when everyone's tailgating again.
Very hard thing to do.
And
business
Trump
like-
realizes that when he said that, because that does nothing to assist the conversation or the debate or move it forward. All it does is trying to put Trump down. He realizes it. Watch how Trump reacts.
like this. I tell you.
Just say thank you.
I said a lot of times in 2 weeks from Putin. In 3 days, this is something
Maybe
new.
less.
In 2 weeks, of course, yes.
It's going to be a very hard thing to do business like this.
It's going to be a very hard thing. He realized, it just dawned on him, the whole mentality of Zelensky, and he realizes it, paraphrases the whole thing. It's going to be very hard to do business like this.
I tell you.
Just say thank you.
I said a lot of times
that there,
to American people.
except that there are disagreements.
Won't say it. I've said it a lot of times. I've said it in the past. Will not say it.
And let's go litigate those disagreements rather than trying to fight it out in the American media when you're wrong. We know that you're wrong.
But you see, I think it's good for the American people to see what's going on.
I
over
understand,
there.
sir.
I think it's very
And
important.
this is really important. Like, can you imagine another president that wouldn't have been like, whoa, things are getting a little heated. We're going to take a little break and we'll regroup in 20. You know, we'll come back in the afternoon. We'll reconvene. What does Trump do? Completely runs with it. And another thing I want you, and he's right. It's good for American people to see this and not just see some neutered version that the news wants you to see. The news has never been on Trump's side. And so he realizes anything that comes to people directly, just like, you know, X with Elon Musk, it comes straight throughout a mediary who's going to put their spin on it or approve what's published or not. Trump wants that. He wants the reality to be seen. And I think that's why he's not calling this off, letting it go and letting people see really, this is the first time I've seen Zelensky outside. It's like when people go on the Joe Rogan podcast, right? You see who they really are, because for short amount of times and sound bites, they can just repeat the party lines. But when you actually either get extended time or emotions are involved, you see who people really are.
That's why I kept this going so long. You have to be thankful. You don't have the cards.
Thankful.
You're buried there. Your people are dying. You're running low on soldiers. Listen, you're running low on soldiers. It would be a damn good thing. And then you tell us.
Trying to interrupt him just continually. Mr. President, can I speak? Can I do this? When Trump is in the middle of talking. One of the other things I want you to notice, Trump does not diffuse the tension. When there is tension, a lot of people will try to say something to diffuse it so it lowers it and everyone feels more calm. Trump just lets it fester and sit because he's comfortable with it.
I don't want a ceasefire. I don't want to
Look at this. He's actually mocking the way that he's talking. He's so mad at this guy. This is you. This is you. I don't want this. This is getting pretty bad.
Fire. I want to go and I wanted this. Look, if you could get a ceasefire right now, I tell you, you take it. So
okay, you hear that? This is what I noticed the first time through. He said, "I'd tell you to take it," and that does not sound like the same kind of wording that you'd say. I'd probably suggest you take it. I'd tell you to take it. Re-exerting who the boss is. If I told you to take it, you would take it. Listen to this again.
The bullet. You could get a ceasefire right now. I tell you, you take it. So the bullet.
Listen to how he says it. Look at his mouth. I tell you to take it. Gets completely aggressive when he says that. Reiterating what I said, the read that he's saying, and you would take it because I'm the one making the decision.
You could get a ceasefire right now. I tell you, you take it. So the bullets stop flying and your men stop getting killed.
Of course, we want to stop the war.
But you're saying you don't want a ceasefire. In fact, the statement is Obama gave sheets and Trump gave javelins.
You see the hands? I mean, obviously, it's no secret that Zelensky is worked up, but look at the hands down here.
And Trump gave javelins.
Every finger ringing.
You got to be more thankful, because let me tell you, you don't have the cards. With us, you have the cards. But without us, you don't have any cards.
One more question to Mr. Vice President. I'm sorry, here.
It's going to be a tough deal to make. Because the attitudes have to change.
What if Russia breaks ceasefire? What if Russia breaks peace talks? What do you do then? I understand that it's
You know, thinking this through, this sounds like a Ukrainian reporter. I'm wondering, how did she start asking questions? She kind of just interrupted. I'm wondering if strategically she was like, dude, the minute there's a break in this, I'm going to ask a question to try to derail this. It's not like either of them tried to stop it. But listen how she just kind of starts talking. This could have been the best thing that happened to Zelensky. She should be getting a pay raise.
You have the cards. But without us, you don't have any cards.
One more question to Mr.
Just literally, no one is like, okay, let's take some questions. She's just like, hey!
President, I'm sorry, here.
It's going to be a tough deal to make. Because the attitudes have to change.
And you can see it was interrupted because Trump still had some finishing thoughts. It wasn't like he interrupted her and wanted to keep this going, but he had some more thoughts. So it's clear she just kind of jumped in there. So that's actually quite strategic on her part. Because you can see, look at this real quick. Let me show you this. This could have been this lady, to be honest with you. Hey, listen, this could have been her who interrupted that. Wouldn't that have been something? I mean, that wouldn't surprise me. So anyway, maybe so.
The problem is, I've empowered you to be a tough guy.
Yeah.
And I don't think you'd be a tough guy without the United States. And your people are very brave. But you're either going to make a deal or we're out. Right? I think we've seen enough. What do you think?
I mean, he could have salvaged so much. Even at this point, it had gone too far when I first said he should have. But even if he said thank you now, like, he should have acknowledged that things have gone too far, unless this is what he wanted to have happen. Like, realize you said some things you shouldn't have, and just and you can use this in your own life. If you ever find yourself emotionally whipsawed and you've gone too far, just call it out. It solves so many problems. Say, listen, this has been kind of a heated exchange. I think we both got a little worked up. At least I know I did. Maybe you didn't, but that's not necessarily what I meant to say. That's not necessarily the way I felt. I do apologize. Like, just do that. And it really can mediate a lot if you've gone too far. And obviously don't apologize for things that you don't want to, but it's a really easy way. People don't understand how impactful that is if you say it and you really mean it.
Guys, come on, let's move.
You know, that's a pretty, I didn't see this first time I'm seeing this. That's a pretty, it's the dynamic between Trump and Vance, man. Like Vance must really know that Trump respects him, because if you follow my channel, you know, when you're the person that gives a compliment, you are showing that you see yourself as a peer. Like, think about if you went to a concert, like a famous musician, famous electric guitar player, and you're like, man, that was a phenomenal electric guitar lick, right? What would most people be? Oh, I love the show. You're so great. Man, that lick was really good. You're putting yourself on that person's level. And the fact that he pats Trump on the arm after that, like, it's a peer-to-peer kind of interaction. It's interesting. I'd never seen that before. It just shows that he knows Trump respects him. And I mean, truly, I've never been more impressed seeing someone as briefly as I have, and I just mean the time frame. Every time he speaks, he is just spot on. I mean, he must have been in the debate team. He must have an incredibly high IQ, but he is so good politically and so well spoken. Seems like an honest dude. So I'm not surprised that Trump feels that way. But this is just kind of a read, you know, between the seats. When you see somebody giving someone else a compliment like that, they see them as peers. This is truly one of the best videos to analyze. It's got everything. It's got emotion, a lot of nuance, a lot of different subtlety you can learn from. And every time I see a video like this, I analyze it. But sometimes there's just 2, 3, 4 weeks that go by and there's no good videos, and I'm not just gonna put out videos just to do it. And it surprises me when people find out I actually have a full-time business. This is just something I do for fun. I bootstrapped the business about 7 years ago, and I founded it, and I'm still the CEO of the company. So that takes my time. And when people find that out, a lot of people are very interested in it. With everything going on with Trump back in the White House, starting a business is something that people seem very interested in. So that's something completely different than this channel. But in the future, I am gonna start talking about that a little more. I won't put it on this channel, I'll put it other places. But if you're interested in that, you can get ready, because that'll be coming soon. Talk to you soon.